Ridgefield Public Schools prides itself on inclusion and has adopted a current theme of all in, a slogan that rings hollow with students purposely excluded and with their parents. Listen and learn from the lived experience of these outcast students' parents. In Ridgefield's so-called alternative school, located inconveniently distant from Ridgefield High School already. Now the superintendent proposes Ridgefield relocate the alternative school even farther away and combine it with the transition program. These two programs are incompatible due to the disparity in ages and the difference in conditions and needs. Mom, Mrs. Aimee Cohen, and Dad, Dr. Matt Blumrich. Someday their story may be yours and your child's story. So please listen carefully and empathetically.
Aimee Cohen, 76 Ridgefield Road. We're seniors, and our kids are grown up. My son is 25, he's out of the school system. We're here fighting for these families. That's who I'm fighting for. They deserve better. And my son was at an alternative school. We didn't have a gym. We don't even have a gym. The kids are being bused 10 minutes away to the high school and back. There is no gym. These kids are your kids in the future. There is so much anxiety and mental health issues. Once they reach middle school, they suffer. They have stress, they have anxiety, they have depression. The girls are cutting, they're anorexic. You know, there's all kinds of mental health issues in the high school. And when they go from being in an elementary school all day with their peer group and one teacher to the middle school, and they're transitioning from room to room every day with different peer groups, these kids are falling apart. My son was all honors AP and started having mental health issues when he went to the middle school. You don't know what's going to happen to your kids when they get there. And to have this alternative program, which is subpar and not up to anything, even what you're talking about, no gym, no science lab equipment for chemistry experiments, for physics, no calculus for the kids because they're considered stupid even though they're average to gifted kids. There is nothing for these kids. And I urge everybody in this room to be active now, because by the time your kids are there and suffering, it's too late to help them. It takes years to move these programs forward. I've been working on this, Rudy, since Dr. Freeston was in office. 7.5 years fighting for these kids, and my son isn't even in the program anymore. Okay. Nobody's child deserves this. Nobody's child deserves not to have core classes because they can't get a teacher there. Nobody deserves to have 80 electives up at the high school, but none at the alternative school. None. No gym, no music. We finally get a music teacher there. 4 months into the program, they pull him out and say, you know what? You're alternative kids, there's only 13 of you. We need you at the high school. Teacher's gone, no music ever again. My son was a gifted saxophone player. No art, except for a teacher who's willing to go with paper and pencils and crayons. I get it. Thanks. But you need to come forward. You need to fight for your children now. It will be too late when they're in middle school. And I'm urging you to take a stand.
Matt Blumrich, 76 Florida Hill Road. Just because you're not educators doesn't mean that education can't be explained to you. It's perfectly reasonable that you act like jurors in a trial where the responsibility to explain the law and convince the jury falls onto the lawyer, that being Dr. De Silva in this analogy. I'm suggesting to all of you that the plan for a combined alternative high school and transition program at a remote location in town is inappropriate and is likely to achieve only a small, marginal improvement over the status quo. As a parent of an AHS alumnus, I know that the students there are receiving a fraction of an education with little opportunity to access the enriching environment we provide for all the other high school students. We all recognize the excellence of the Ridgefield school system in terms of core learning, electives, counseling and psychological support, athletics, clubs, field trips, you name it. Very little of that excellence is available to the alternative high school students. And giving them some more space and a few walls won't make the difference. Why? Because the logistics of the remote location make it all but impossible. Getting from Halpin Lane to the high school is a 10-minute drive at a good time of day in good weather. Add to that the time to walk from the bus to a class somewhere in the building, and you can see that attending a class at the high school is extremely disruptive for alternative high school students. Now, think of it the other way around. If a well-meaning high school teacher wants to teach at the alternative high school, they need to get permission for all that travel time, in addition to the class time. So it's no wonder that so few classes are even offered at the alternative high school today. Another problem with the current plan is that 14-year-olds should not be in the same building with 25-year-olds day after day. Everybody knows this is inappropriate, which is why we have elementary schools that are separate from middle schools, that are separate from high schools. There's an obvious solution, which is to locate the alternative high school on the high school campus and find an in-town location for the transition program. This makes so much sense that it's worth asking Dr. De Silva to justify her plan and explain why it's superior, especially because enrollment at the high school is down 20% from 2015. I want to be clear that questioning a plan is not disparaging the person who came up with it. But when a plan that costs millions of dollars appears to be suspiciously inadequate, it is incumbent that questions be asked. Is it too much for you to ask our superintendent, who's paid almost $300,000 a year by the taxpayers, to produce a report explaining how the investment of several million more taxpayer dollars will produce equitable outcomes for the alternative high school students? Is it too much to ask how the town will save money on outplacements when the combined space might be repulsive to the alternative high school population? Is the path of least resistance the only one that you all will consider? Thank you.
We all learned Thomas Jefferson's famous aphorism in civics: evil triumphs when good people do nothing. The exclusion of alternative school students, the denial of equal education to which all students are entitled, lumping it together with older students with very different conditions. These are wrong, and you have the power to say no. Please come to the public hearing and town meeting this Wednesday, December 18th, at Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. You have a say in this too. Please support inclusion when it counts the most. Vote no.